This is all of our boot accessories that we've slowly developed over the last 4 years as we've done more and more boot reviews and realized how many things are missing in the market. So be sure to check out all these below. They make great gifts, self-gifts, and it's a huge way that you can help support the channel. So check them out below. 3 months ago, we busted Timberland selling you absolute garbage under the guise of their $380 premium luxurious version of their boot, made of premium materials, exacting standard, elevated expression of the timeless icon. When in all reality, I think we pretty well proved that Timberland knowingly sold you a boot worth about $100 when they're really selling for like $380, which to me is completely unforgivable for a brand that's as big and as iconic as Timberland is, and they should have known better. So when I saw Timberland release another elevated version of their iconic boot, I thought there's no way that they would do this exact same thing again. There's no way they try to pull the wool over their consumers' eyes twice in a row in 3 months. There's no way they put another brand's reputation on the line for another quick cash grab, right? Well, we bought a pair to cut in half and run through all of our tests to really figure out, is Timberland strip mining their brand into the pursuits of higher and higher margins? Was this just a one-off mistake, or is this a pattern of behavior by this brand? Which of these two boots is the more premium, not premium version? How much is this boot worth regardless of the name brand and whatever fancy designer brands attached to it? And can I tear this apart by hand? Because if you remember last time, I pretty well tore this one apart by hand when it was cut in half, and the clip went viral. It has like millions and millions of views, and people are like, well, of course you can tear apart a boot, it's already cut in half. So we're gonna revisit that and see if I can actually tear this whole boot in half by hand, and if I can pull this whole boot apart by hand. So wait around to the end, and we'll see how this boot actually turned out to be. So first of all, who is Our Legacy? I just assumed, I look at their box and it says Our Legacy on the box, so I just assumed that they were talking about the Timberland legacy. This is a boot that represents our legacy. But actually, Our Legacy is a Stockholm-based fashion brand founded in 2005 by Joachim Hallem and Krista Nyling and Richard Claren. There's no way I got those names right. Those are way off for sure, but we're going with it. Known as a cult brand, it produces men's and women's ready-to-wear characterized by minimal, high quality, and reworked classic silhouettes, often using custom developed fabrics and upcycled materials. So they're saying like, hey, we make high quality stuff, we take old school styles and make them better. And allegedly, the brand's name reflects that design ethos of taking inspiration from past generations and adapting them to the present. So you would assume if they went to this high-end fashion house in Scandinavia where they take things and reimagine and make them higher quality, this would be a high quality boot. And so my hopes are high for it. This might be the redemption arc for Timberland. So then what is this boot? Well, the brand is Timberland x Our Legacy. The style is the workshop 6-inch boot. Is that what it says on here? On here it says Timberland Premium 6-inch lace waterproof boot, medium brown, full grain. They weigh 2 pounds even, which is pretty hefty. You compare these two in heft, this one is way more substantial. It just feels like a real boot compared to this, like a Walmart boot. They retail for $340. They're also made in Cambodia, and I noticed right when I sat down to record this, because I was just double checking the facts, made in Cambodia. Wouldn't you believe it? The exact same tag on both boots. I wonder what that means. Probably the same freaking factory. But how do they actually position this boot? Well, they say iconic silhouette rebuilt through materials and proportion. Made in collaboration between Our Legacy Workshop and Timberland, this iconic 6-inch boot is reworked in premium Horween leather with a pebbled finish to help add depth and texture to the timeless design. Featuring a subtly reshaped profile. Interesting, how so? Subtly reworked, very subtle. So subtle I can't tell them apart. That might be the most subtle reworking I've ever seen, actually. The lace-up silhouette is completed with an anti-fatigue footbed for long-lasting cushion and a rugged Vibram rubber outsole for confident traction. And if you do want a pair of these, check them out via links in my description. So first, before we start digging into this material by material, how am I determining if these boots are worth it or not? Well, fortunately, Timberland's such an iconic brand that so many brands have ripped off Timberlands over the year for work boots, for style boots, that we've literally got like 20 different boots that look exactly like Timberlands from like 20 different brands that we've cut apart, anywhere from a $20 Amazon boot all the way up to the most premium version you can buy. And so I just grabbed, 6 or 7 boots in that category so that we can have a full spectrum from the most affordable up to the most premium, and we can take this cross section, we can take all the materials, all the features, and really find it on that price spectrum to figure out how much this boot is actually worth. And that to me is the most objective way to judge a boot, not based off my personal opinion, not based off the brand's hype or how long they've been around or the type of products they make, and that is how we're gonna judge this. So first, let's look at leather first, because as you can see, usually your iconic Timberlands are this nubuck leather, but with this boot, they went with a really well-known tannery, which is Horween, based out of Chicago. They make shell cordovan is probably how you know them. They make Chrome XL. They're known across the world for being a premium leather manufacturer. And so much so that a lot of times these brands will do everything in their power to make sure that they have that Horween stamp somewhere on their product. And so how good is this leather? Well, it comes in, it's kind of all over the place actually in thickness. It's anywhere from like 2 millimeters up to 2.5 millimeters. So it is the thickness that you want to see for a work boot. Even if it is a paying homage to a work boot, it's still cool that they did it a little bit thicker leather. But there's one problem I have with this leather, and it's this heavy pigment and plastic coating they put on top. You can see the difference between a more natural nubuck leather and this really heavily pigmented leather. And I don't know if it's pigment, I don't know if it's plastic, I don't know what it is, so let's take a little knife and let's just scratch that top surface off, because that's the number one problem with this kind of leather, is if you have a pigment or basically paint on top or plastic on top, the moment you get a little scratch like that, that's never going away, because you literally removed the pigment on top. If you literally skin it like I'm doing here to see if it's pigment or if it's plastic on top, you can see that's completely removed all the color from that leather. And so now, even if I get it wet, it's not gonna go back to its original color. And so the reason they probably did this was to get a uniform color, maybe to bring it a little bit more elevated, to have maybe a more high-end look. But the problem is they ruin the integrity of the look of the leather by doing that. And it's nothing intentional, because there's leathers like rub-off leathers, there's like patinaed leathers. This is just a really heavily painted leather that it's gonna do this after your first few wears. And so you buy these really expensive boots expecting them to look like this for an extended period of time, and the first time you hit a curb, that top coat is already completely removed. Because fortunately it's not a plastic coat. We burned it to double check, and just from scraping it, you can tell it's just a really thin pigmented layer. And like really thin too. Like, that was a knife. I'll scratch it with my fingernail. What? You can remove the pigment on top? So this is not to say Horween makes terrible leathers, because objectively, Horween makes some of the best leather in the entire world. But if you go to a tannery and you force them to make a subpar leather, they're gonna make you a subpar leather. But the thing that's crazy to me is that Horween allowed them to put their stamp on the boot. Once again, I don't think this is a bad leather, because if you look at the cross section of it, there's a ton of grain in there. This feels a lot like their Chrome XL, so I'm guessing it's a really cool combination of Chrome XL plus what Timberland wanted, but they screwed it all up by putting this really shitty pigmented layer on top that just flakes off. But I don't think that's the biggest crime, you know, because this is like an elevated, like fancy Scandinavian brand. They wanted pigment on top, so you can find a way to justify it. And even more so, this collar right here is real leather too. It's similar to the previous one we did, where it's not the best cut of leather, because you see a lot of like flaws and inconsistencies in it. And then you look on the inside, it's got this really bright orange leather that's also surprisingly thick, has a lot of grain in it, it's fairly natural. So the leather's actually pretty good. Like across the board, you remove that one issue with the pigment layer on top, it's good leather. If I pull out the insole, it is a leather top insole. You know, it's no saddle sole. That's literally why we designed the saddle sole, because you cannot get a modern insole that has a big slab of veg tan on top and foam. And so finally we just designed it. I was just like, if none of these brands are gonna put this in their boots, I'll freaking design it. So that's why we came with the saddle soles with 2 millimeters of veg tan, so you can put it in any kind of boot or shoe and you'll have that heritage feel. It doesn't stink nearly as much because it's veg tan, gives you that perfect footprint in your boots. So if you want a saddle sole, check them out below. But these are still decent. You know, it's like, I was surprised that it is that same lining leather. It's got a heavy pigment on top, so it's not gonna absorb your sweat. It's a chrome tan leather instead of veg tan, so it's still gonna be a little stinky, but it's not bad. But this is where we started running some problems. And if I look down in there, that does not look like a $340 boot. If you look at any other boots that we cut apart in that $300 plus range, it's either gonna be a modern boot full of modern materials and fancy foams and triple densities and these unique shanks and all this advanced modern technology. But if it's a $300 traditional heritage boot, you're gonna see tons of leather on the inside. You're gonna see sewing and stitching, whether it's a Blake stitch, a stitch down, a Goodyear welt construction. Because when you spend that much money on a boot, you wanna be able to repair it. Because when you pay $300 plus on boots, they're made to last through several resoles. They're made to be an investment. And so the most important materials are all on the inside, because those are the absolute hardest to fix, the most expensive to fix, and the hardest to get to. So with a $340 boot, you should expect the best quality to be hidden on the inside. But when I reached down in here, just from the little bit of flexing and moving and the B-roll we took of this boot, this whole freaking thing is already completely dislodged. It's already falling out. It was just lightly tacked in there. I can literally pull the glue out. What? You compare that to any other boot in this price range, you never see that. And what's worse is underneath of it. There's really nothing there. It's just a really thin lasting board, but but it's not sewn in. It's not, the insole doesn't really tuck underneath of it. And what makes it worse is now I can feel that this lining is just glued in. That whole vamp lining is already coming dislodged. And just to prove how poorly designed this was, the reason this came out was it's not fastened anywhere. This shank is riveted to this compressed cardboard, but the compressed cardboard is just lightly glued into the boot. So the moment you bend the boot like this, or you step on a ladder rung, because this board is just lightly glued in there, it goes like this. You can see how with that amount of pressure, that's gonna pop that shank up and completely dislodge this. And same thing as if you stood on a ladder rung, if you put pressure right there, that's gonna lift that shank up and dislodge this entire thing. It's one of the biggest design flaws I've ever seen in a $300 plus boot. It's so much so that if I was Timberland, I would fire every single person on my product team because this is inexcusable. Because any footwear designer would have learned first day of class that you do not do this. When you start using the boot self-destructs. It's absolutely insane to me. I can't believe that they did this twice in a row. And you might be thinking, well, the construction is what matters. It's gonna save it. Maybe it's a traditionally made boot, but if you look closely, those stitches are so clearly fake. But once again, you might defend it and say, well, Timberland's never really focused on like real traditionally made boots. You look at their more affordable single sole, but as you can see, cemented construction, the actual premium version, direct injected, and it's really well fastened in there. There's no way you could tear that thing apart. And these retail for what, 140, 150 bucks? And then their actual work version, same thing. It retails for 140 bucks. It's direct injected, dual density, has the fiberboard on the inside. And so even if you're thinking there's something on the inside that's gonna save this boot, we already have all the other Timberland boots to prove that there's probably nothing on the inside that will save it. And more than anything, we're gonna figure out which of these three boots is this premium version of Timberland more like? Is it like the really cheap single sole, the double sole, the work version, or is it even worse than all of them? So now let's cut this thing in half and not just see which of the Timberlands is it most like, but we're also gonna see on this spectrum of boots what they should have been charging for both of these boots and can I rip them apart? So let's cut them in half. Okay, we got them cut in half, and if you're not subscribed, consider pushing that subscribe button. Check out our saddle sole insoles we just dropped. They're gonna be sold out pretty soon. It's in the next like 20 or 30 days. It'll be a few months before we get our restock. Check out our boot breakers, check out our collaborations. That's how we can afford to do this and really hold these brands accountable. No one else is doing this. Nobody wants to punch up to these big brands. Everyone else on the internet seems to be, towing the party line, where we hold these guys accountable no matter what. So thank you guys for your support. Check those out below. So now let's see what's inside. Now that we have it completely cut apart, look at this. Still, it just completely blows my mind that this comes dislodged that easily. It's the most important structural part of the boot. It's what gives it all the rigidity, gives it all the strength, all the support underfoot, and it comes dislodged by taking a single step. You stand on a ladder once, it comes dislodged. You take too big of a step, it comes dislodged. This is actually the perfect way to show it. Like, you take too big of a step, see how that lifts up and delaminates? That wouldn't happen if it was sewn in, if it was tucked in, if it was riveted in, if there's anything other than a little bit of a smattering of glue holding it in there. Same thing if you stand on a ladder rung, immediately that shank pops up and you can feel it. That is one of the biggest design flaws I've ever seen in any boot, let alone a $300 plus boot. So first, how does this, on the spectrum of Timberland boots that we've cut apart, is it closest to the really terrible single sole that nobody should ever wear, apparently? I didn't know that was a rule. Is it closer to the actual premium dual sole, or is it closer to their work boots? It's pretty obvious, unfortunately. You can tell exactly which one it's the most similar to. It's not the work boots. It's not the double sole where it's injected and polyurethane and tool densities and this. It's more similar to the one pair of boots that you get roasted for wearing from Timberland. It's the single sole cheapos that get sold at Ross and TJ Maxx that you can't be caught dead wearing on the streets in New York. And they made their premium version the most similar to their absolute worst boot and sell it for $350. Are you kidding me? It just blows me away in every way. blow me away in every way. I did not think this one was gonna be that bad. It looked like it was pretty decent from the outside. This one, you could tell was bad from the outside, but I thought this was for sure gonna be the one that fixed this problem from Timberland. So then how much is this boot worth? Like if we compare it to these other boots, like we got this Luxe boot right here. This was probably a $60 boot. You know, we'll have the editors put up the real price range here, but you can get these on sale for like 40 bucks. You compare it to another Ross boot in the Beverly Hills Polo Club. You compare it to more of a workwear brand in the DeWalt's. You even compare it to the Walmart Timberlands. If I were to rank these, I would say, well, these two are definitely better. It's a true Goodyear welt construction. It's direct injected with multiple layers of foam. And these are like 130 bucks. It's closer to the Ross brands. It's closer to the stuff you get from discount racks. Because look at the similarities. All four of these have a similar style of unit outsoles. This Timberland does have some filler material that's foam, where these ones are just columned. But then you look at the cheap Tims that are really similar to that. You just look at this cross section and you can tell it's within this range of quality. You know, not the outside. The outside has some other good qualities to it, but the most important structural parts are similar to boots you buy on the discount rack for like 40 bucks. And they're selling these for 340 bucks. But that's not to say that this boot is the same quality as this, because there are some good things about this boot. This is a really nice leather. Timberland just forced Horween to put a terrible pigment on top, so the moment you scratch it with your fingernail, they already look trashed. It is a decent collar leather, but it is a cheaper cut. You can see all the scars and flaws and issues with it. The lining is also pretty decent. It's literally just a typical lining leather, but it's glued in. It has the exact same problem as this boot. It's not even cemented in, it's just lightly tacked in there. It doesn't even go up into the eyelet, so I can literally tear the lining out. It's not sewn right there, so you can tear this apart and tear this down. So your entire vamp lining is not sewn in whatsoever. So even though they use a couple good materials and a couple big name brands like Vibram and Horween, this is not a good boot. So how much do I think it should be worth? Just if you look at the cross section, you take the leather quality out, it's like a $50 boot. You add the leather quality in there, the Horween name, the Vibram outsole, those are more expensive. It is the name brands and you do have to pay a premium. But just looking at it objectively on a scale of all these Timberland-like boots that we have, there's no way this boot should cost more than 150 bucks. So to me, this just seems like Timberland spent a little bit of money on the things that you can see from the outside that have big brand names like the Horween leather, like the Vibram outsole. And if I was Horween and if I was Vibram, I would be absolutely pissed at these guys, because they put their good Horween and Vibram name on an absolutely terrible product that's twice, if not 3 times the price it should be. If I was Horween or Vibram, I would absolutely refuse to let Timberland put my name on any of their products unless I looked at every square inch of it and made sure it actually represented my brand name. Timberland used other people's good names to sell a bad product. I'd be absolutely furious, let alone the R legacy. But R legacy, if you're gonna put your name on a boot, you should know what you're putting your name on. So I feel bad for Vibram and Horween, but I do not feel bad for R legacy, and I especially don't feel bad for Timberland. So is Timberland strip mining their own brand in the pursuit of higher margins? This is 2 instances in the last 3 months of them completely whoring out their brand name. After decades of building up the brand and building trust in their consumer, it's so clear they're completely strip mining any value they have in their boots just to make an extra buck. And it's at your expense. They're telling you these are premium products, they're elevated, when in all reality, you can prove that they're like a $100 boot. Was it just a one-off mistake, or is this a pattern of behavior? How can you not view it as a pattern of behavior when the last 2 premium versions of their boots they make are like cheap Amazon, Walmart boots? How could you ever trust this brand, especially when they tell you this is the premium version, they give you the exact opposite? They're making like $200 plus per boot off of your back by lying to you. It's not technically lying, it's kind of shading the truth. It's the same thing that Nike does. And so they get away with it and hope that nobody knows any better until they literally step on a ladder rung and the whole freaking inside of the boot pops out. So which of these 2 terrible premium boots are better? You gotta say this one. At least it's got the better Horween leather. It's got a few other things that are better than this piece of trash. So now, after the last video, everyone's like, you tore the half boot in half, it doesn't count, like the whole boot's got, you lost all the structural integrity. Let's find out if you can tear a whole Timberland Luxe boot in half, not just the half like everyone got mad at me about, but can I tear the whole thing apart by hand? Gotta roll the sleeves up. Oh, okay, it's a little bit tougher than I thought. I'm getting in there though. Oh! Whole boot. You should not be able to do that with a $350, $380 luxury version of Timberlands that they put all this branding and marketing and fancy advertising behind.
You shouldn't be able to tear a boot in half by hand. I told you guys, this is absolute trash, Timberland. You should be embarrassed. Scam. Jeez. I told you guys, that is okay, but can I tear apart this one? Because this one's cemented too. This is gonna be hard. Ooh, I think I can get it though. I think I can get it actually. Oh, I can do it actually. It's harder though for sure. I gotta stay on screen so you guys don't think I'm cheating. Okay, I gotta take a breath for a sec. Okay. Okay. Ugh, so close. It's definitely harder. Oh, got it. Look at that, failing already. Like I've been tearing it apart. Okay, one more big pull. I challenge anyone to do that with a true heritage boot. What the Timberland? That is embarrassing. To anybody out there, I dare you to try to do that exact same thing with any quality of heritage boot. That is bad, Timberland. You're busted twice in a row. That's why nobody trusts you. Fire all your designers. That is embarrassing. Get your together, Timberland. This is inexcusable. This is the most embarrassing thing I've seen from any big brand ever. In the 6 years we've been doing this, and it's just not even once, it's twice. So if I had a pair of these, I would immediately ask for my money back because that is a freaking joke. And that's why we do this thing. Because without us literally tearing these apart by hand, you wouldn't know that you got a piece of product until you stepped on a ladder rung and your whole boot fell apart from the inside out. So thank you guys, see ya. I'm wearing pants, I swear. They don't need to know I don't have pants on, right? Oh, I can't stand up without pants on. I want to be sweaty. One more button down. I'm already not wearing pants.